All right, guys, welcome back to the Coaches Roundtable. I think this is round 17. I never keep a track. And we've got probably one of the first, but definitely not the last. We now have a nutritionist coming on, which is great fun. I'm sure that Paddy will do a good job of introducing himself. But today we've got a nutritionist known Paddy, Padster, I call him. And so Paddy, just kind of let everyone know, like, what sort of stuff have you done in the past? Yeah, go for it.
Yep. So I have been in London now for around, God, it's nearly 4 years now. So I have a big background in GAA, so that's Gaelic football, so Gaelic Athletic Association. So I used to play quite a high level back at home in my county of Monaghan. So I played Gaelic football there, and I've been involved with teams, coaching teams at underage. I've been involved with nutrition in terms of GAA, in terms of hurling as well. It's another sport. And then I've come over here and I've been involved with high performing athletes in Kings. And yeah, just really have a really big interest in it. I'm trying to get into the S&C game a little bit more, so a bit like yourself, Connor. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sweet. All right, well, we've got some interesting questions, which I hope you're prepared for. So I reckon what we'll do, like I mentioned before, was probably do like a couple of parts, just so it's a bit easier for people to kind of digest the information, because I'm sure you've probably got a lot of stuff to say. So should we just crack on straight in?
Yeah, might as well.
All right.
Throw into the deep end.
I forgot who submitted each question, so I'm just going to read them out, and then yeah, it's all right. So the first one is, how would you best suggest that we change our macronutrients due to lockdown? So they've also said, I'd imagine that we probably need less due to not traveling as much, but how much less, or is it perhaps they just stay the same?
Yeah. So again, you're probably going to be sick of the start of these answers as well. But again, it's very individual. And again, it's very individual down to the person's energy expenditure as well. So say, for example, someone could be, I'm not saying this is specific to Olympic weightlifting, but someone could be, a marathon runner. And obviously their energy needs will be hugely greater than someone who is, a ping pong player or like a dart player, for example, just to get the two ends of the spectrum there. But I would say, for me, just keep your protein intake at a constant level throughout. So roughly around, again, if it's specific to like Olympic weightlifting, around anywhere from 1.2 to 2 grams per kg of body weight, just to sort of keep that muscle density there, just to keep the recovery process going as well. Again, if you're training, so I know, Connor, you've been training down in an underground gym lately. So
the Russian bunker.
Yeah. So you have obviously been keeping up your training frequency, so therefore I don't think your energy needs would go down too much. I know it would change for someone who, for example, is doing a lot less walking than they have been doing it if they're doing a lot less training, so therefore their carbohydrate needs would come down. But I would still stay in the sort of rough guideline of 3 to 5 grams per kg of body weight. Now that could be as simple as taking away your carb source late at night, say for example, just reducing those carbohydrate needs at the end of the night, and you could be just sticking with your veggies and your protein then, because carbohydrate is just purely an energy source. Okay, so if you don't use up the energy source, it's just going to be stored. Okay, so say for example, the best part would be to reduce it at the end of the night, because your body's sort of slowing down, you're sort of getting ready for bed. So reducing it then would be, brilliant, because you're not going to be using it basically. So yeah, that's my sort of take on it.
No, that's good. And I wanted to quickly add like a little caveat to that question. So you obviously, with myself and Alex, we're still able to have access to equipment. And although our training might be slightly different, like for me, for example, I'm only working from the gym once a week, whereas the rest of the time I'm just sat at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
So my energy expenditure, although I'm still training, is slightly different, because I'm sometimes struggling to walk like even 5,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
So how would you imagine, like, although we're trying to sort of keep our nutrition similar, would there be something else that you might advise to other people who potentially might not have access to equipment, do for their nutrition, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, so you're just saying, like, if their steps aren't as big. Yeah, so I would say a good way of sort of monitoring it is sort of monitoring your weight throughout the day as well, and then just tracking your foods on My Protein Pal as well, so that you know, say for example, you know that you're not, taking as much steps throughout the day, so therefore your energy levels have to come back a little bit, and then vice versa. So I would say the main thing for that would be do like a little training diary. So do, say for example, okay, well, I have a high frequency training day here, low here, and then what I would say an easy way to do it actually would be sort of a carb cycling way. So on high training days, go with the higher amount of carbs. On low training days, just go lower carbs. So that saves it from sort of tracking and sort of putting in equations everywhere. So I would say on the days you're doing loads of training, high carbs, less days, a little bit of medium carbs. And then if you're having a rest day, very little carbs. We'll try and go like that anyway,
Unless you're Alex and you just eat loads of carbs every day.
Yeah.
Carbs are life. Awesome. Alex, you got anything to add to that?
No, I think, yeah.
Yeah, because Alex is obviously trying to go up. I mean, you at first you trying to go up 1 weight class. You've now decided you're going to go up 2 weight classes.
Yeah, I think I'm tall, so it was like it kind of made sense for me. Like I kind of started out as, I think, God, I was about like 63, 64 when I first started, and I'm 5'7", so I'm about 170, 171, and so it kind of like naturally. I was in the old 69 class, which then turned into 71. And then we moved up to 76. And then we're like, yeah, fuck it, 81. And it's more just like, I'm at that point where I'm kind of considering my competitiveness within it. And looking at where other kind of women with sort of similar physiology, similar age, similar height tend to end up, and it is typically anything from 76 to 87. So I'm just trying to find somewhere where I'm kind of like comfortable in, I suppose. But yeah, no, I think kind of will say as well, like for me, putting on weight has been really tricky because I'm just not a big eater. Love food, but just can't handle a lot of it at any one time. So for me it's just a case of just like eating frequently throughout the day. Which is quite tricky, especially when you're out and about all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas I'm
organized.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I'm the entire opposite, where I've never usually thought that I've struggled to put on weight, but like since I've had the same choice as Alex, where I used to be an 89 and I'm 6 foot. Like I'm quite a tall person for being an 89 kilo lifter. And I've noticed that not only has my recovery been better going up to 96, but also I just feel like much stronger. I'm hoping that my lifts kind of creep up a little bit with the amount of weight but it's taken me 5 months to go from 89 to 96, which is quite. I don't know if is that a short amount of time or a long amount of time?
No, that's pretty average,
right?
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah. But I'm different to Alex. Like I can eat all the time, even if I'm not hungry, I'll still eat.
Yeah, because I'm just like a kilo a month. I'd struggle with that so much.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm not saying that it's all muscle.
Yeah, I think men generally tend to put on weight easier and lose weight easier. I think it's a genetic sort of thing. Like I don't know the sort of ins and out of it, but yeah, I would definitely find that, especially with my sort of previous athletes that have worked with and myself as well. Like when we want to put on weight, we can put it on, and when we want to take it off, if we're strict with ourselves, we can take it off. Whereas women fluctuate all the time due to like the menstrual cycle and stuff. So it's definitely a complex sort of thing as well.
Yeah, nice, sweet. All right, let's move on to number 2. All right. This was a really interesting question, and it's not usually something that, like, because obviously we know, like, you buy a pack of chicken, it only lasts a week, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But this question, I've never really given it that much thought until my brother asked it. So the question is, should I be concerned about the nutritional loss in my food or for meal prepping 3 days in advance?
Yeah. So I would say no. Don't be worried about it. The only thing you've potentially would be worried about is there's a few micronutrients that might get lost that are water soluble. So like the likes of like B and C. But if you just take a multivitamin, you know, you're going to eradicate all that anyway.
Yeah.
So I would say no. I would say it'd be absolutely fine.
Oh, that's all right
It's
then.
quite a short answer. Sorry.
No, it's funny though, because when I thought about it, I was like, it's an interesting thing, because usually in most things, like, things would degrade, right? So if you cook a pack of chicken and let's say you have 5 breasts in there, you're going to have like 1 a day for your lunch.
Yeah.
By the 5th day, is there less protein in that chicken?
I don't think so. The only thing that I would say is I was trying to do a little bit of research before, but microwaving is like it's like the least damaging way of reheating something. So say, for example, if you were to like reheat it in like a grill or like an oven, for example, or like in a pan, you know, the water it's going to evaporate everywhere. So at least if it's in the sort of container and you have a container on it, if you know what I mean, the moisture is going to drip back down into the food. So there's not too much vitamins that's going to be lost. So that's the safest way.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Because I've over lockdown, I haven't really food prepped that much, just because I've been at home more often.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know. All right. I don't know how we want to tackle this one, but the next question is, how do I know when I need to take supplements? And I want to add a caveat to that is, do you think taking supplements is as important as just eating normal food? And why would you take them?
Yeah. So I would sort of try and simplify this down into sort of layman's terms. So I would just say, very simply, listen to your body. You know, if you are feeling sore, you're probably not getting enough protein in. And if you're not sleeping right, you're probably not getting enough carbs and protein in as well. You know, if you're tired and fatigued, if you're sore, you know, then you need to take a step back and just take an overall, you know, picture of like, what actually am I putting into my body? You know, is the macros right? And I would say, obviously, go back to the original problem. So I would say, instead of going straight to sort of, I know that's going on to our next question as well with supplements, but instead of going straight to supplements, I would say go back to whole foods and say, look, I'm not taking in enough carbs. That's why I'm sore. That's why I don't have enough energy. You know, and the same goes for protein as well. And what was your little caveat as well, Connor?
The caveat was basically like, when do I know that if I should take supplements?
Yeah. I would say when you have gone back and reassessed your food plan and reassessed what exactly what macronutrients am I putting into my body. And if you're doing that properly and then you're still feel that you're tired or sore or fatigued, then I would say go for a supplement. But I'd always revert back to the whole foods process all the time. That would be the only sort of way. But I would, because for example, if you were to, you know, if you were feeling sore or you knew kind of offhand that you weren't getting enough protein in, and you just said, oh, let's just have a protein shake there, you know, that's not going to be constant. You know, you're not going to have, you're not going to have that protein shake, you know, hypothetically the same day every day, and it might not be after, you know, this exact training session. So you need to get your whole foods back into the diet properly. So that's when you're talking in terms of your carbohydrate, whether that be pre-training, pre-match, you know, post-training, and the same goes for protein post-training as well. And as well, like say, for example, if you're sore, you know, there's a window of opportunity just before you go to bed. You know, if you have some, you know, some casein, which can be found in milk. So there's like whey and casein in milk. You know, that's a slow release energy throughout the night, or slow release sort of protein throughout the night. You know, add in them little things, you know, look at your meal timing, look at so the 3 ways I look at it is there's 3 T's. So it's type, timing, and total with nutrition. So the type of protein. So are you taking in the right type of protein? So is that, you know, high GI carbs straight after a workout to sort of refill your glycogen stores? Your timing, you know, are you taking your meals in, you know, 2 hours before training session, you know, an hour before the training session to bump up those glycogen stores? You know, as I said, the recovery window just before you go to bed. And then total, you know, totally taking in your total amount of carbohydrates. So say, for example, if someone is like a huge endurance athlete, they should be taking in roughly offhand 7 to 10 grams of carbs per kg of body weight. And protein, it could be anywhere from 1.2 up to 2 grams of protein. So I would just look at those 3 T's and just see, are you actually doing them properly? And then if you really feel that you're really trying it and it's not working, I would sort of assess it and then maybe go to a supplement, but always sort of contact someone, you know, that knows about supplements as well. Don't just be going buying any supplements off a friend or off the internet. You know, you need to know what you're taking as well. But yeah, that would be my sort of take on it.
No, that's good though. It's nice and simple. Alex, you got anything to add to that?
No.
Sick. All right, let me pull up the next question. I mean, the next question was kind of similar to the question that we just asked, which was, I mean, personally, like, what's your opinion on supplement meals, such as like Huel? What else is there? Don't even know what else there is. Even just like having like pre-packaged, so things like, is it like fresh fitness food, like stuff like that? So things that are prepared for you that are delivered to your home, or even things like Huel and meal replacement supplement.
Yeah, so I would say they're definitely a good idea. You know, in terms of, I would always be for a meal replacement. So say, for example, if you have a big, you know, weightlifting day somewhere and you have to go traveling for a long way for it, and you've done the comp or whatever, and you're starving, you know, there's nothing as better as taking out a little, you know, meal supplement and, you know, putting it in with a little bit of milk, mixing it up and just sipping away at it instead of, you know, being starving and going around looking for stuff, and it's probably really expensive and it's probably not the right stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So I would say it's definitely beneficial in that regard. I would say if you have access to whole foods, go for it as well. You know, if you are at a stage where you're close enough to your comp that you can prepare the food that it's not going to be sitting in the bottom of your bag, you know, and it's not going to be nice to eat. Well, if that's the case, then I would go 100% for the meal replacement and, you know, the protein supplementation, you know, for the fact that it's just easy and it's there.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that at all. But I just wouldn't want like people relying on it, if you know what I mean. You know, I would like, especially for like young athletes coming up, I wouldn't want them sort of relying on, oh, well, I need this like supplement now and I need it at this time, and, you know, I need to buy this big supplement here. You know, I would want them to understand the sort of the breakdown of their macronutrients and why they're taking in this carb, why they're taking this protein, you know. But then again, as I said, it's really beneficial, especially if you're traveling, especially if you have a hectic lifestyle, just to take out a supplement, you know, and drink it as you go. I definitely think it's a good idea as well. Yeah.
Have you ever tried Huel?
I have, yeah. I have. Probably mixed reviews on it. The more you drink it, the more you get used to it. But I would definitely, I would definitely go for, you know, just whole foods.
Yeah.
Then again, if I tried it when I was playing a football match, you know, a good bit away from London one time, and it was great just to have the packet there and to be sipping it on the bus. It was great, but if I wouldn't want to be drinking it in my house if there's food in the drawers. You know?
Yeah. Because I know that they. Sorry, Alex, go on.
Sorry, I think, you know, I've found as well with like the kind of meal supplementation or, you know, even just whey protein, it's so expensive for what it is. My God.
Yeah.
It's, it adds up really, really quickly if you're having it like quite frequently. But there are kind of like alternatives that you can get that are a lot cheaper and then at least, you know, contain a little bit of like everything else really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or I want to add to that one. I think it's easy to fall into that kind of like trap of just like kind of becoming reliant on it. And then, you know, because if you're getting through like a 30 quid way thing every month, that's an extra 30 quid that you could be spending on steak instead.
Yeah,
Exactly,
chicken and
yeah.
steak. Yeah, absolutely. But also, I think just I mean, if you've got the time, like Paddy said as well, like just the process of cooking and eating whole food is so much more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like you feel fuller. You're getting, you know that all of those ingredients are fresh. Like if you're going to have huel, which has got vitamins in it, or you're going to have, broccoli or spinach or carrots that has those vitamins, but they're in abundance in, or like fresh organic vegetables. I would much rather have that than if I've got the time. But I know that like some people, like breakfast is a perfect example. Like some people, they'll just have like protein oats, or like for me, my go-to is scrambled egg. And I've started to add things like pepper, onion, chorizo, a bit of double cream and spinach to my eggs, just because not only does it make the meal bigger, but I'm getting vegetables in as well. But for someone that doesn't have the time to do that, I know my brother generally works like early, so he's not going to wake up at like 6 a.m. to cook himself eggs, because that's just, he wants to sleep. So he's got Huel, and I remember the first time I tried Huel. They've got flavors now, but the first time that I tried it, I said to him, it tastes like soggy Weetabix. Like it genuinely tastes like soggy Weetabix, and it's great for someone who has a busy lifestyle. But I think it perfectly resonates when Paddy always goes back to whole food, because it's more fulfilling, and it's just eating a bloody lovely steak is just, you can't beat it, can you? Like
you learn to appreciate food as well, and that's what I say to a few of my athletes as well, is like try not to have too much activity in front of you when you're eating. And I know it's easy to like eat and watch a film or scroll through social media, but I try to say to them, really appreciate the food, and really embrace the taste, and I really appreciate it. And nothing can beats when you're comparing whole food to like a meal replacement, as you say, Connor.
Yeah, it's not the same, is it?
No.
Have you, one question I wanted to ask before we maybe go on to another one is, have you tried any of like the because just to sort of give a bit of background, we've just signed up to HelloFresh, which is like a meal service where they send you all the ingredients, you cook the meals yourself, and it's all fresh. And I was considering going with more of like a meal prepping service before HelloFresh, but then I realized, I was like, well, I have the time to cook food, and what are your thoughts on, because even Alex said like it's fucking expensive, like meal prep services. What are your thoughts on like meal prep services compared to you going and buying the food and doing it yourself? I guess it would just come down to if you've got the time, right?
Yeah, it definitely just come down to sort of personal preference and time as well. I would say the meal prep service is a good idea. Are you talking about a meal prep service where they send you the complete package of the finished meal?
Yeah.
So I would think that is a brilliant idea, and a lot better than sort of meal replacements if you were to go down that route. But then again, it could be more expensive, and it just sort of, if you're able to go, I think it's good to sort of zone out and go for a little walk and go into the supermarket and grab the little ingredients and have a little chat with whoever you're going with, or interact that way, instead of just having everything delivered to you and being convenient all the time. It's nice to go shop and work for it as well. But then again, if you're hugely restricted on time, it's another brilliant option as well.
But you just said it perfectly, that like sometimes convenience, like the most efficient way, is not always the nicest way. Like you have a pre-prepared steak, it's not going to be anywhere near as nice. I know I keep going back to steak, but let's be honest, steak is the best. Like it's not going to be as nice as you cooking and seasoning a steak, and it's just the process of the smell of it. And I know that if you're vegan, you're probably not going to like that, but
I would argue as well, like one of the things that's kind of kept me away from sort of meal prep services, or your kind of meal in a box that you then do yourself, is like I can't mess with it. I can't change things. I'm just these are the ingredients that I have to work with, and it's someone else's recipe. But like a lot of the time, me and Chris will have a recipe for just something new, like you know, for example, we had it's super healthy, as you can imagine, deep fried honey sesame chicken, but like
So healthy.
double the amount of chicken because we want more of that. But I feel like, you know, you're kind of restricted when you have you know, your kind of meal in a box solutions. But I think that's more for me. It's like I like messing about with recipes and tweaking things and putting something in or taking something out. So
yeah. Especially with this lockdown, we need all the freedom we can get.
yeah,
Absolutely. But the other thing as well that you mentioned is like, how do I phrase this? It's kind of like the process of buying the ingredients, cooking the food, eating the food. It kind of, I know that I mentioned this before, but it gives you fulfillment, and it allows you to appreciate like the food that you're eating. And I'm not talking about in terms of your performance, I'm talking about mentally and psychologically. Like, I think, like Paddy said a bit before, was really sitting down and enjoying the food that you're eating rather than just focusing on this steak is 30 grams of protein. Like, getting away from the fact that, yes, it is 30 grams of protein and it is going to serve you for performance purposes, but sometimes you just want to eat that because it tastes nice and it makes you feel like, you know, kind of warm and fuzzy inside, you know?
Yeah.
Like a nice hot chocolate with some cream on top and some marshmallows.
Yeah. And so in some
If you're a
respect,
child.
it's good for athletes to not think of it as so much as fuel, but like the enjoyment of it as well, as you say, Connor. And then again, it obviously is fuel, but
Yeah,
you know, it's nice to hear them say, "Oh, the stir fry that I cooked yesterday was delicious," instead of like, "Oh, I was really full and it helped me get through training as well."
yeah,
Or something like that, you know. But it's nice for the people to have a different perspective on it as well.
yeah, absolutely. Right, have we got time for one more?
and so
All right. Which one should we do? All right, this is one that I want you to do because I know that you've tried intermittent fasting before, haven't you?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on weightlifting in the morning whilst doing intermittent fasting, specifically like Olympic weightlifting?
Yep. So I would say, again, it's down to the individual. You know, that's the typical question
It depends.
that you don't like to hear. But some people can intermittent fast so easily, you know, and they don't even have to think about it. They just get a black coffee in them and they can go about their day. And next thing they turn around and it's like 3 or 4 o'clock and they're like, oh, I have to eat. Whereas some people would struggle through it and at like 10 o'clock, they would be like, I need food. You know, and it's the same as when, you know, when someone goes to train, you know, some people feel they have a lot of energy in the morning. Some people feel really weak. What I would say as well is when you are training in the morning, especially if you know you're going to intermittent fast, have a big meal the night before. So there's a glycogen in your stores, so you have that little bit of energy. Especially if it's Olympic weightlifting, because Olympic weightlifting is, you know, like a fast, explosive sport. You know, and carbohydrates is the main fuel there. You know, you need to be explosive and fast. And I would say just a trial and error would be good. So say, for example, just test it out, just, you know, do intermittent fasting one day and go train. And then maybe in a couple of days, do exactly the same training session, but, you know, eat that morning and, you know, see how your energy levels were, see how your recovery was. And just do a little experiment with yourself, if you know what I mean, and just see, you know, did it matter? You know, was my performance hampered? Did I feel good? Did you feel happy during the workout as well? Because a lot of people feel very groggy and don't want to talk to anyone when they're training if they're fasting. But yeah, I would just say have a little experiment with yourself, you know, and as I said, again, you know, some people, they find it really easy and they can train up to 3 or 4 o'clock intermittent fasting. Some people can't. You just have to sort of see what it's like for yourself.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to do that. I know that I have to have at least one meal in me before I lift.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's just because I'm heavier, like, you know, I'm a bigger guy than someone who might be like 60 kilos.
Yeah.
But I know full well that I've got to have at least one coffee and a good amount of carbohydrates and protein in me before I even think about lifting.
Yeah.
The opposite, in that, like, well, you know, train in the morning, just 2 black coffees with some sugar and I'm good to go. And I'll eat basically immediately after training. And I think, like you said about having like a good meal before going to bed, it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
In the morning. But now, by and large, like I'm kind of always at my best in the mornings generally. Once past kind of 12 p.m., everything just starts to go downhill.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they just get tired or, you know, kind of like mentally fatigued, or I have no idea. Just like, yeah.
It's just the way that your body works though, isn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like a psychological thing as well, because if you're used to that routine, Alex, you know, you like that routine and that's the way you go about things and you've done it for a while, then you're just going to adhere to that and that's it. You know, and it's the same with people, you know, who work, say like, for example, work in an office and, you know, it's coming up to 1:45, it's 10:50 and they look at the clock and automatically they get hungry because it's just coming up to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they're just so used to that routine of like getting a meal in them at 1 o'clock. And if they probably didn't know the time, they probably wouldn't be hungry. That's another issue as well. But yeah, as I said, it's just very individual.
Yeah. How long? I mean, I know that you've experimented with, I'm not even sure if you're still doing intermittent fasting, but how long on average, and I know this is probably going to be, it depends on an individual basis, but on average, how long would it take for you to sort of get used to implementing intermittent fasting for your benefit?
Again, it depends. Some people could, you know, adapt to it in 2 or 3 days. Some people it would take a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And your body is like an organism. It will adjust to things as it goes along. And the more you do it, the more it's obviously going to get used to it. So say, for example, if you were to do a Connor, you know, you would probably feel very groggy the first 3 or 4 days, and then slowly, surely, you know, you will start to feel a little bit more energy in the morning. You'll start to be able to do it a little bit easier. And yeah, it's just very individual, down to the individual. And, you know, some people find a lot of benefits off it. There's a myth out there as well that, you know, intermittent fasting is brilliant for fat loss. Whereas they've done lots of studies on it, and it always comes down to the total calories that you take in the day. It's nothing to do with if training fasted or, you know, any of that. It's literally down to the amount of calories you take in. So
calories in versus calories out.
Yeah. So taking in less calories than you expend that's the way you're going to lose weight. But yeah, that's basically my sort of 2 cents on it.
I want to delve a little bit more into like the intermittent fasting stuff in terms of like how you would potentially implement it and stuff. But I reckon it's probably a good time to cap it there with the 4 or 5 questions. And then we'll probably come back to it in part 2, because we've got a few more questions to ask. And if it also gives people the opportunity to potentially ask questions on top of what you've also previously discussed, if that's good with you.
Sure. Yeah, no problem at all.
Awesome. All right. Alex, have you got anything to add, or are you happy to just cap it there?
No, it's just, I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything to kind of add that we haven't already covered, really.
No, it's really good. Like, I mean, obviously with myself and Alex, we have to, and we've had this conversation before, Paddy, where we know what to do for ourselves, but it's different when you're trying to disseminate information and give it to other people based on our experience.
Yeah.
Because although we know, like I said, what we're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean that what we're doing is going to work for someone else in the weightlifting club. So it's always good to know, and also good to have someone who's experienced and knowledgeable in the field of, you know, this is bullshit, but this is good stuff sort of thing. So we appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure that the guys and girls at the club will really enjoy. I mean, I know that a lot of the guys and girls at the club were looking forward to this for the last like 3-4 weeks. So
brilliant.
I'm hoping that we'll have some more questions after this.
No worries.
Awesome. All right, Paddy, Alex, I shall catch you guys soon, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.